I do not usually talk about my family much. Not because we are private, but because every time I do, someone tries to one-up my misery with, "Oh, you think your family is bad." But I am telling you, mine is the kind of toxic that does not scream in your face or throw dishes across the room. No, my family specializes in something worse. Backhanded comments, passive-aggressive smirks, and the kind of manipulation you do not even realize is happening until you are halfway home and suddenly wondering why you feel like garbage. My name is Ethan. I am 29, and I have spent most of my adult life trying to keep a healthy distance between me and the people who raised me. But as you will see, sometimes, no matter how far you run, the past catches up in a suit with a fake smile and holding a wine glass at Thanksgiving dinner. For context, I work in legal consulting, specifically with early-stage startups. I help them avoid lawsuits, or sometimes I am brought in after the damage has already been done. I keep things low-key. I do not brag. I do not bring my work into family gatherings. And most of the time, I do not even correct people when they assume I am still working at that one law firm I interned with 5 years ago. Why? Because the second someone in my family thinks you are doing too well, you become a target. A punching bag, a story they get to rewrite to suit their version of events. Take my cousin Samantha, for instance. She and I were inseparable when we were kids. We built pillow forts together, made up dumb songs, on road trips, shared everything. But once we hit our 20s and I started moving up while she seemed to stall out, something shifted. She got bitter, snippy. Every interaction started feeling like a test I did not know I was taking. But still, I tried. I went to her birthdays, sent holiday cards, even helped her edit her resume once. That was my mistake, thinking effort would earn me goodwill. Last Thanksgiving, I was debating skipping the family dinner altogether. It had been a rough couple of months. Long hours, a few tough cases, not a lot of sleep. But Mom guilt tripped me in her usual way. "You never make time for family anymore," she said over the phone. Her voice coated in that disappointed tone she has mastered over the years. Samantha is bringing her new boyfriend. Everyone is excited to meet him. I should have known that was code for this is going to be a circus. And you are the unwitting main act. So I showed up, brought a bottle of wine. Nothing fancy, just enough to avoid questions. The dinner was at my aunt and uncle's house like always. Big oak dining table, mismatched chairs, fake candles flickering. Even though the overhead lights were already blinding, everyone was there. My mom, of course, Aunt Diane and Uncle Robert, who have always looked like they stepped out of a 90s family sitcom, but act like they are auditioning for a reality show called Petty and Proud. My younger brother Ryan, who mostly stays quiet unless someone brings up cryptocurrency. And Samantha seated proudly next to a guy I had never seen before, smiling like she just won the lottery. "This is Chase," she announced as I walked in. He founded this app that helps small businesses connect with investors. He is kind of a big deal. I smiled politely, nodded, shook his hand. He had the kind of grip that is more performance than connection. Firm, but with no warmth behind it. He was dressed sharp, like he wanted to be mistaken for a CEO at all times. Navy blazer, expensive-looking watch loafers with no socks. And from the second I sat down, I could feel it. He had something to prove. The first jab came before we even started eating. We were making small talk about cities we traveled to, and I mentioned a client trip I took to Seattle. Chase grinned across the table and said, "Oh, I love when lawyers pretend they are entrepreneurs. It is cute, just like that. No wink, no smile to soften it. Just a hit delivered with the casual cruelty of someone who is used to people laughing along." And they did. Aunt Diane let out this little snort. Uncle Robert chuckled. Even my mom gave this tight-lipped smile like, "He is not wrong, Ethan." I swallowed it. I have learned not to react. You react, you give them fuel. Later, while we passed around the mashed potatoes, Chase started talking about his company. His tone had that smug tilt I have come to associate with guys who think being the loudest in the room means they are the smartest. We are revolutionizing the small business space, he declared. Nobody is doing what we are doing. We have already raised 3 rounds and next year exit strategy. I nodded, stayed quiet. But I could feel Samantha watching me, waiting for me to chime in. Almost like she wanted a fight. She never liked being second best at anything. And in her mind, this dinner was her victory lap, new boyfriend, successful startup, all eyes on her. Chase kept going, name-dropping investors, throwing around buzzwords like disruptive and scalable, like he was pitching us instead of eating turkey. At one point, he looked at me directly and asked, "What about you, Ethan? You still doing whatever it is you do?" That got a laugh. A real one this time from multiple people. My uncle even added, "Probably suing someone for calling him boring." That one stung more than I expected. It was such a dumb line, but the way everyone chuckled made it clear they all thought the same thing. They did not take me seriously. Not really. I tried to laugh it off, took a sip of wine, smiled, and said, "Yeah, something like that." But inside, I could feel something knotting up in my chest. The kind of tension that starts as frustration, but hardens into something colder when left unchecked. Chase kept poking little digs about lawyers being parasites, about how real innovation happens outside courtrooms, about how the only people who sue startups are the ones who could not build anything themselves. Every time he said something, I looked at Samantha. She never flinched, never defended me. In fact, she seemed proud of him. Eventually, I spoke up. I said, "You know, I am happy your company is doing well. Chase, but not every lawsuit is a cash grab. Some of us try to hold people accountable when they cross lines." My tone was not angry. It was not even sharp, just firm. But the second I said it, my mom rolled her eyes. "Ethan," she muttered, "maybe if you were not so sensitive all the time, people would not joke so much." That did it. That opened the floodgates. Because it was not just Chase. It was all of them. Years of tiny cuts framed as jokes. 1,000 unspoken expectations and the constant reminder that no matter what I did, I would always be the one who took things too seriously. So I shut up. I bit my tongue. I went quiet. But then Chase, grinning and unaware, started talking about a lawsuit he had just received. Some clown filed this bogus complaint about IP infringement. He said, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. Thinks we stole their pitch deck or something. Honestly, it is pathetic. We are not worried. My legal team is already shredding it. And in that moment, I felt something shift because I knew exactly what he was talking about. I was that clown. And suddenly I was not angry anymore. I was not even hurt. I just smiled, leaned back in my chair and said, "Huh, that is interesting. I do not usually talk shop at dinner, but I think I know that case. In fact, I think I am the one who filed it." And that was when the laughing stopped. Chase blinked first. It was just for a second, but I caught it the way his smile faltered, the way his eyebrows twitched ever so slightly like his brain was trying to reroute itself in real time. Everyone else froze too, but in different ways. Samantha stopped mid-chew. My mom turned her head toward me so slowly it felt like the room had dropped a few degrees. My uncle cleared his throat. The air was thick with something I could not name yet, but I could feel it humming under my skin. "You are kidding," Chase said, still smiling, but now it was all teeth. "That is a joke, right?" Chase said. I took another sip of wine, set my glass down, and shrugged. Nope. Nobody laughed this time. Chase chuckled again, but it sounded forced now. "You are telling me you are behind that lawsuit?" "You what?" "Work for the firm representing them." "No," I said casually, picking up a roll from the breadbasket. "I am the one who filed it. I represent the plaintiff. My client came to me a few months ago with some pretty compelling documentation screenshots. Emails, even timestamps from a shared pitch drive. I tore the roll in half slowly, my voice calm and even. "They are claiming your company stole their concept. altered it slightly, and used it in your most recent investor deck." For a moment, it felt like nobody was breathing. Then my Aunt Diane laughed. It was sharp, uncomfortable. "Oh, come on, Ethan. It is Thanksgiving. Can we not talk about lawsuits and he said she said garbage?" I ignored her. I was not talking to her. My eyes stayed locked on Chase. "You remember the name Nathan Kenner?" He stiffened, just a little. Just enough for me to know I had hit the nerve. "Wait, what is this?" Samantha finally spoke, looking from me to Chase and back again. "You are suing his company." Like in real life, Chase recovered quickly. "It is ridiculous," he said, waving a hand. "Some guy thinks he had the same idea we did, and now he is crying foul because we executed better. Happens all the time in tech. Does not mean it is valid. Ethan is just the legal guy cashing in." That stung, but I let it slide. "I have dealt with worse in courtrooms. You signed an NDA when you took that meeting," I said. "Your company did anyway." "That is a binding document." Chase scoffed. "It is vague. It is not enforceable." My smile never left. "That is what we will find out in court." And just like that, the power shifted. He knew it. I knew it. But everyone else, they were still trying to catch up. My mom broke the silence first. "Ethan, why would you bring this up here? What kind of person comes to a family gathering and throws a lawsuit at the dinner table?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I did not flinch under her disappointment. The kind of person who has been sitting here all night while everyone laughed at him. The kind of person who has been called sensitive for asking not to be mocked. The kind of person who has been doing his job and then finds out the guy insulting him over turkey is the same guy trying to bury evidence in a legal case. She blinked once, but I was not done. "You raised me to work hard to follow the rules, to stand up when something is wrong. But when I actually do that, suddenly I am too much. You are okay with people tearing me down as long as they smile when they do it." Nobody said a word. I stood up slowly, letting my napkin fall onto the plate. "You want to know the worst part?" I said, voice steady. I was not even going to bring it up. "I did not come here to rub anything in. I came because you asked. Because you said family matters. But now I am sitting here realizing maybe it only matters when I am small enough to be stepped on." I turned to leave. "Ethan, wait," my mom started, but I held up a hand. "I am done waiting." I walked out, coat over my shoulder, heart pounding, not from nerves but from something colder, resolved. I did not slam the door behind me, did not yell. I just left. But that was not the end. The next morning, my phone buzzed before I had even had coffee. First, it was a text from my mom. "We need to talk." Then another from my brother Ryan. "Chase is freaking out. Says you blindsided him." What is going on? Then Samantha, of course. "You seriously just ruined Thanksgiving for everyone. Hope it was worth it." I did not reply. I sat with it. Let the silence grow. Because that was the breaking point, really. Not the lawsuit, not the jabs, not even the moment at dinner when I pulled the pin. The breaking point was realizing that no matter what I did, how much I achieved, how quiet I stayed, how many dinners I attended, I was never going to be seen as enough. Not unless I shrank myself. Not unless I let people like Chase talk over me while everyone else laughed along. That afternoon, I got a call from my firm's lead partner. Apparently, Chase had tried to reach out through unofficial channels, wanted to settle things personally. I told him to run it by my client. If they were open to negotiation, we would go through the proper legal steps. No shortcuts, no favors. That was when it really hit me. He thought because we had shared a dinner table, I would back down, that I would just fold up the case and pretend nothing happened. But he did not know me. Not really. He only knew the version of me Samantha had probably painted for him, quiet, awkward, the cousin who had gotten lucky with a law degree but never really fit in with the family. The rest of the week was a blur of emails, texts, and passive-aggressive voicemails. Aunt Diane called to say I had embarrassed Samantha. Uncle Robert suggested I just let it go because what is family if not forgiveness? Even my mom tried to play mediator, saying, maybe there is a way you can work this out without making it so public. Public. That word kept echoing in my head because that was what they were really worried about, was it not? Not the truth. Not whether Chase had actually stolen anything. They were worried people might see that their Golden Girl's boyfriend was not as bulletproof as he seemed. See that maybe I was not the doormat they thought they could roll over. But the worst part, the part that stuck with me, that played on a loop in my head, was a message Samantha sent 2 days later. You always had a problem with me getting more attention. You could not just let me have something good for once. You had to ruin it. That one hurt because for all our differences, I had never wanted to ruin anything for her. I remembered every childhood sleepover, every dumb secret we had sworn to keep. I remembered when she cried over not getting into her dream school and I stayed up late helping her brainstorm alternatives. I remembered when she broke her wrist falling off a bike and begged me not to tell anyone she had been trying to impress a boy, so I did not. I remembered when she called me in the middle of the night because she was scared of failing her business class. And I remembered that I always showed up. But in her mind, I was the villain now. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because I would not stay quiet, because I would not play the part they had assigned me. And so the silence stretched. I did not go to Sunday dinner, did not respond to the group chat when Aunt Diane sent pictures of her cat in a pilgrim hat, did not even acknowledge the Merry Christmas text that came a month later. I was done performing. But the thing is, the story did not end there. Because while my family tried to paint me as the problem, Chase's company started to bleed. The legal proceedings got messier. Evidence surfaced, emails, timestamps, investor pitches that looked eerily similar to Nathan's original proposal. Suddenly that bogus lawsuit was not so easy to dismiss, and Chase started to unravel. But that part, that is where it gets interesting. And trust me, nobody was laughing anymore. For weeks after Thanksgiving, everything felt like static. I went through the motions. Woke up, went to work, answered emails, filed motions, prepped briefs, but inside I was on autopilot. I had been through rough patches before. Law school was brutal. My first job out of school had nearly broken me. And there were nights early in my career when I lay on the floor of my studio apartment just staring at the ceiling, wondering if I would ever feel like I belonged in the world I had worked so hard to get into. But this was something different. Because this was not about work. It was not about money or failure or imposter syndrome. This was about my family, the people who were supposed to back me, even when I stumbled. And for the first time, I could not shake the feeling that I had lost something permanent, something that was not coming back. I did not get invited to the annual post-holiday brunch Aunt Diane threw every January. No group selfies, no inside jokes about who spiked the orange juice too much that year. The family group chat quieted down around me except for the occasional passive-aggressive hope everyone is doing well. That clearly was not meant for me. Even Ryan, my brother, the one person I thought might have my back, stopped reaching out after I did not respond to his third, "You okay?" text. Rock bottom did not come with a dramatic breakdown. It came with silence and emptiness that followed me everywhere. I sat at home on weekends with the TV playing shows I was not watching. I walked past my phone on the kitchen counter and did not bother checking it. I stopped going to the gym, stopped cooking for myself, just takeout containers, deadlines, and the same gray hoodie every day. And yet somewhere in that silence, something shifted. It happened gradually. At first, I did not even realize it. It started with a call from my client Nathan, the guy who had come to me months ago with that pitch deck and a desperate need for someone to believe him. He was a scrappy guy, early 30s, not a lot of connections. His startup idea was not flashy, but it was smart, efficient, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized just how bold Chase's theft really was. "Hey," Nathan had said during one of our late-night calls, "I just wanted to say thanks again." Most people would have laughed me out of the room. I remembered staring at my laptop in the dark, not sure what to say. I had not told Nathan about the Thanksgiving mess. He did not know the guy we were going after had insulted me in front of my whole family over sweet potato casserole. All he knew was that I was the lawyer who had not let him get steamrolled. "You gave me a shot," he said. "That means everything." That stuck with me. A few days later, I found myself rereading Nathan's original pitch deck. Not because I needed Toit was already etched into my memory, but because I wanted to remember what had pulled me into this fight in the first place. And as I flipped through the slides, something clicked. This case, it was not about Chase. It was not even about Samantha or my mom or anyone else sitting around that table that night. It was about truth, about standing for something when everyone else just wanted to laugh it off. So I got back to work. I started showing up at the office early, stayed late, dug deeper. I stopped thinking like someone on the defensive and started thinking like someone building something. Every motion I filed, every piece of evidence I cataloged it, was all part of a bigger picture now. A case that could make waves. Not just for Nathan, but for every underdog who had ever had their ideas stolen by a slick-talking fraud in loafers with no socks. At the same time, I started slowly pulling myself out of the rut I had sunk into. I forced myself back into the gym, even if it was just 20 minutes on the treadmill. I cooked one meal from scratch a week, then two. I deleted the group chat and muted Samantha's social media. Not out of spite, just peace. I started reading again. Not legal briefs books, stories, ideas. I even picked up a used guitar from a shop down the street. I had always wanted to learn, and suddenly there were no more excuses. The weirdest thing was that the quieter my life got, the better it felt. No more fake smiles, no more trying to keep the peace at my own expense, just me finally listening to myself. Meanwhile, the case heated up. Chase's legal team was flailing. Every time they tried to discredit Nathan's timeline, we dropped a new bomb metadata emails, even a text where Chase had accidentally forwarded part of Nathan's original pitch deck to one of his advisors. The arrogance was astonishing. I was not surprised when news of the lawsuit started leaking into the tech press. A few blogs ran headlines like, "Rising Startup Facing IP Infringement Lawsuit" and "Is this founder too good to be true?" Nothing major yet, but the murmurs were growing. Then came the deposition. Chase walked into the room like he was still on a stage. Hair gelled, watch polished, suit too tight, but underneath the swagger I could see it. The cracks forming. He did not expect to be grilled. He did not expect me to be the one asking the questions. I kept my tone calm, professional, but every question was a needle threading its way through the web he had spun. And when I presented the slide, Nathan's original slide that had been copied almost word for word in Chase's investor deck, he stammered. "Two did not make that slide." "No," I said, tapping my pen. "Your CTO did using files from a shared drive. The same drive your company accessed after signing an NDA with Nathan Kinnear. You know what that is called? Chase." He did not answer. Infringement. He looked at his lawyer. His lawyer looked down. And I knew we had him. After the deposition, things moved fast. Nathan started getting calls from investors who had originally ghosted him. We always liked the idea, they said. Just did not know if it had legs. Now they did. Now they saw what had really happened. And suddenly Nathan was not the underdog anymore. He was the guy who had stood his ground and won. One of those investors reached out to me, said he liked how I handled myself, asked if I had ever considered consulting full-time for venture fund, helping them vet the companies they invested in. I said I would think about it. I started sleeping better, eating better, laughing again. And the best part, I no longer needed anyone's approval to do it, because I had found something stronger than validation. I had found clarity. Clarity that I did not owe anyone's silence just because they shared my blood. Clarity that doing the right thing is not always clean or comfortable or applauded. Clarity that sometimes when the world around you is built on paper-thin lies and plastic smiles, being the person who tells the truth is the most radical thing you can do. And still, despite everything, part of me wondered if I would hear from Samantha. Weeks passed. Nothing. Until one night, as I was locking up the office late, I saw her name flash across my phone screen. She was calling, and I had not heard her voice since Thanksgiving. I stood there staring at the screen, just watching it ring. I did not pick up because I knew whatever she had to say now was not going to fix anything. But I also knew something else. This was not the end. Not even close. Because the fallout was just beginning. And Chase had no idea what was coming next. The message from Samantha sat in my inbox for 5 days before I opened it. Not because I was angry, I had moved past that, but because I was not curious anymore. There was no part of me that needed her validation or her excuses or even her apology, but eventually I clicked. It was short cold. You blindsided me. I do not know if we can come back from this. Chase says this is all about you being jealous and bitter. I am trying to believe that is not true, but right now I do not know. That was all. No, how are you? No recognition that Chase's company was actively trying to bury a theft that could ruin someone else's life. Just you made this awkward for me. Classic Samantha. And with that, something settled into place. A clarity I had not realized I had been waiting for. I was not just going to win this lawsuit anymore. I was going to bury the narrative they had all been spinning for years, the one where I was the odd one out. The too sensitive cousin. The one who did not know how to have a sense of humor. I was going to pull the mask off Chase's smug little startup and expose everything they had stolen, everything they had lied about to investors, partners, even the media. And I was not going to do it for revenge. I was going to do it because it was right. But I would be lying if I said it did not feel a little personal. Because now I had something Chase did not. I had receipts. The first thing I did was dig deeper. We already had a strong case with the email chains and the metadata. Chase's team had been sloppy, and we had caught them red-handed lifting core slides from Nathan's deck. But I wanted more. I wanted to know just how far the rot went. So I started poking around. I had to contact Erica, someone I had worked with during a consulting gig the year before. She used to be on the due diligence team for a mid-sized VC fund. Smart, discreet, and with access to all kinds of private investor networks. When I explained the situation, she did not hesitate. "Oh, that company," she said with a dry laugh. "Yeah, they have been making waves in all the worst ways. A couple of us have been wondering how long it would take before someone called them out," Erica said. She gave me access to an internal investor forum where anonymous chatter about shady deals and questionable startups was the norm. And sure enough, buried in a thread from 2 months ago was a gem. Heard from someone inside Next Core Ventures that Apex Link Labs fudged their monthly active users last quarter, inflated numbers to close Series D, NDA'd the analyst who caught it. Next Core Ventures was one of Chase's early investors, and if there was even a whisper of number fudging on a funding round, that was a bomb waiting to go off. I flagged it. Next, I started compiling everything Publish interviews Chase had given blog posts. His company had published a podcast episode where he described how he had come up with the idea in the shower after a particularly intense run. Funny, considering Nathan had timestamps on his Google Drive from nearly 6 months before that. Every quote, every sound bite, every puffed-up PR post became another brick in the wall I was building. Then came the biggest surprise. Nathan called me one morning and said, "Hey, I just got a weird message on LinkedIn. Some guy who used to work at Apex Link Labs says he has documents. Is it real? Seems like it, I said. What does he want? He says he left on bad terms, but he saw what they did to me and does not think it is right. His name was Marcus, former junior product manager, and he had an entire email chain where Chase and his CTO discussed reworking Nathan's slides to fit the new narrative. Not only that, there were internal memos where Chase bragged about how nobody will come after us. The kid does not have the money for a lawyer. I read that line 4 times. The kid does not have the money. Chase thought this was just another easy theft that he could steal scale and skip town before anyone noticed. What he did not count on was the kid finding someone who knew exactly how to play the long game. Now I had evidence. Now I had motive. Now I needed an opportunity. The legal case was proceeding exactly as expected. Chase's lawyers were doing their best to stall, delay, deny. But momentum was shifting. Every discovery motion we filed uncovered something new, and yet, as airtight as the case was becoming, I knew the courtroom would not be enough. Because even if we won, even if the court awarded Nathan damages, Chase would still be able to spin it. He would blame a disgruntled former employee. He would call it a misunderstanding. He would settle disappear for 6 months and rebrand under a new name, unless we went public. But I could not leak anything while discovery was ongoing. It could jeopardize the case. So instead, I focused on building a shadow dossier, a separate non-legal version of everything we knew. The story, the timeline, the fraud, the stolen idea, the arrogance, all of it. I shared it with Nathan. "What is this?" he asked. "It is your future profile piece," I said. "For when this is over, when you are the guy who took on a dirty startup and won." He laughed nervously. "You think anyone will care?" "They will care," I said. "Trust me, because I had seen this before. The tech world loves underdogs, especially ones who punch up and win." And Chase was practically begging for a fall from grace. I looped Erica in again. She helped me quietly circulate pieces of the dossier through trusted channels, just enough to get people talking. No leaks, just whispers, just questions. Did Apex Link Labs steal their core product? Why did Next Core Ventures back out of their Series D? Is Chase really who he says he is? The pressure started to mount. And while all of that was happening, I prepared the final piece. The conference, Innovate Summit, was the biggest startup conference on the West Coast. Thousands of investors, founders, journalists, and consultants all under one roof. Chase had been invited to speak on a panel titled Scaling with Integrity: How to Lead in the Modern Era. The irony was not lost on me. I reached out to the organizers through a contact of mine and secured a last-minute guest speaker slot for Nathan in a smaller but still heavily attended startup founder session. Nothing flashy, just a 10-minute talk on ethical funding and IP protection. But it would be enough to plant the story enough to let people see him. And when they did, when they started connecting the dots between Nathan's story, the lawsuit headlines, and the sudden retreat of Apex Link Labs funding, the truth would hit like a hammer. The final move came 1 week before the conference. Apex Link Labs issued a quiet press release announcing strategic restructuring and refocusing product development. It was corporate speak for panic mode. A few investors started pulling out. Their CTO abruptly stepped down. The writing was on the wall. But Chase still did not see it. He still thought he could bluff his way through. I got a call that same night from my mother of all people. "I heard you are still going after Chase," she said, her voice tight. "Do you really think this is the best way to handle things?" I paused. "Yes, I do. You have made things really hard for Samantha. People are talking. She is humiliated." "Samantha chose to humiliate herself," I said calmly, by standing next to someone who steals and lies and treats everyone else like they are beneath him. "That is not on me." Silence. Then, quietly, "I do not recognize you anymore." I smiled to myself. Good, I said. That means I am finally doing something right. And so the stage was set. Chase would walk onto that conference panel in a tailored suit and flash his best smile. Nathan would quietly tell his story 2 rooms away. And by the time the weekend was over, everyone would know. The theft, the arrogance, the lies. This was not just about a lawsuit anymore. This was about legacy. And I was going to make sure the truth had the final word. The first day of Innovate Summit arrived like the slow, steady inhale before a punch. The city buzzed with rented Teslas, clacking badge lanyards, and overpriced cold brew. A sea of aspiring founders and freshly minted VCs flooded the downtown convention center, all elbowing their way toward whatever disruption smelled most like the next unicorn. I had been to Innovate Summit twice before, but this year felt different. This year, I was not just another suit in the crowd. I was the guy holding the match. Chase's panel was set for Saturday afternoon. Scaling with Integrity. That title still made me laugh. Hosted on the main stage, it was prime real estate, dozens of cameras, tech bloggers in the front row, all the big names in venture peeking in from the back. Chase was billed as the headliner. His headshot, smiling jawline, clenched hand on chin like he had just invented clean water, was plastered across the promo banners like he was the second coming of Jobs. Nathan's slot came 2 hours before in room C21. Smaller, quieter, no stage lights, no camera crew. Just a low podium, some plastic chairs, and a crowd of maybe 60 early-stage founders there to learn about avoiding legal traps. He almost did not show. I do not know if I can do this, he told me that morning. We were seated on a bench outside the venue, both of us sipping lukewarm coffee in silence. You do not have to give a TED Talk, I said. You just have to tell the truth. The rest will take care of itself. He nodded. Then he is going to be in the same building as me. That is so insane. I looked at him. By tonight, he is going to wish he was not. Nathan's talk started quietly. A few people trickled in, then a few more. By minute 10, the room was full. He did not start with Dramano theatrics, just a steady voice and a story. I came up with a platform to help small businesses connect with micro-investors, he said. I pitched it. I got a few meetings. One of them was with Apex Link Labs. He did not use Chase's name directly, which was smart, but the room was already buzzing. They signed an NDA. We shared documents. They passed. He paused. A few months later, I saw my deck with a new logo being presented at a startup showcase. Word for word, slide for slide. The audience was silent now. No laptops open, no side conversations, just eyes locked forward. I thought about walking away. He continued, but someone said to me, theft does not become innovation just because the thief gets venture funding. That someone had been me. He did not say that part. He did not need to. He ended the talk with one line. Do not let fear of being difficult keep you from being right. The applause started slow, then rolled into a standing ovation. And right there in that plain conference room with cheap carpet and humming fluorescent lights, I knew we had won the crowd. But the war was not over. Not yet. Chase walked on to the main stage 2 hours later like he was still king. Flanked by 2 other CEOs and a moderator who clearly worshipped the ground he walked on, he launched straight into his usual monologue. At Apex Link Labs, we believe in integrity innovation and scaling with purpose. The irony nearly made me choke. I was standing in the back, blending into the crowd, just another nameless attendee. But I was not alone. Erica was there too. Nathan sat beside her, head up, eyes sharp. We were not there to heckle. We did not need to, because the real revenge was already in motion. 2 hours before Chase's panel, I had quietly uploaded our legal filing to a public case database, something anyone could access with the right link. Then Erica had sent that link along with our meticulously curated dossier of quotes, timestamps, slide comparisons, and email chains to 3 specific people. a mid-tier tech blogger known for Expos, a well-respected VC journalist who specialized in startup accountability, a rising tech influencer on TikTok with 500,000 followers and a love for drama. The story exploded. It started as a whisper in the back rows during Chase's talk phones, buzzing screens, lighting up with alerts. Then came the murmurs, people checking the article, scrolling, whispering to each other. By the time Chase was answering his third softball question about what makes a founder trustworthy, the first journalist had tweeted, "Developing lawsuit reveals. Apex Link Labs may have stolen core IP from a smaller startup after signing NDA. Founder Chase Allen named directly." Full story dropping in 10. The moderator blinked, looked down at his phone, then back up. One of the panelists shifted uncomfortably. Chase kept talking, but he could feel it. The silence in the room was not admiration. It was tension. The polite, sharp-edged kind that comes when everyone knows something you do not. Then came the tick-tock. Just under 2 minutes side-by-side comparison of Nathan's deck and Chase's. Circling text zooming in on the email thread where Chase wrote, "The kid does not have the money to do anything." It was already at 20,000 likes by the time the panel ended. Chase stepped off stage to a swarm of cameras. But this time, no one was asking about his roadmap. They were asking about the lawsuit, about the emails, about the stolen pitch. He tried to laugh it off, saying, "It is all a misunderstanding. We are confident in our position." But his voice cracked. I watched from across the lobby as he grabbed Samantha's arm, pulling her aside, his face twisted in panic. Her mouth was a tight line, arms crossed. She was already checking her phone, reading what the world now knew. She did not look like someone defending her boyfriend. She looked like someone realizing she had backed the wrong horse. Within 48 hours, the fallout began. Apex Link Labs' LinkedIn page went dark. Next Core Ventures issued a statement saying they were pausing all support pending investigation. 2 of their advisors resigned. Then came the emails from reporters, the ones I had been waiting for. A long-form piece went live a week later. David versus Goliath. How a scrappy startup took on a Silicon Valley darling and won. It did not name me directly. I was fine with that. But Nathan's story became a symbol of standing your ground. Within a month, Nathan closed a new round of funding clean money, real investors. He renamed the company, moved into a proper office. And then he asked me to be his permanent legal advisor. I said yes. Chase, on the other hand, disappeared from social media. The last thing anyone heard, he was being pushed out by what remained of his board. The startup world moved on without him like it always does. One day he was a visionary. The next, just another cautionary tale. As for Samantha, she sent me another message. This one was different. I did not know the full story. I was wrong. I should have listened. I am sorry. I did not reply. Not out of anger, but because I did not need to anymore. The silence was not bitter now. It was peace. Months later, I stood in Nathan's new office watching a fresh team of developers work around whiteboards and screens. "You still thinking about the trial?" he asked me. I shook my head. "No, I am thinking about how many times I almost did not show up." He looked over. "Glad you did." So was I. Because in the end, revenge was not the court ruling or the headlines. It was becoming the kind of man who did not flinch anymore. The kind of man who knew his worth. The kind of man who did not shrink to make others comfortable. The man they underestimated again and again until he burned the mask they made for him and never looked back. I did not just win the case. I buried the lie.